Why did they make fun of it anyway? Why did they insult it? Why are these cartoons being made? Why is there so much propaganda and so much hate speech towards Muslims, even justified as journalism nowadays, masked as, editorial columns, pieces about, and the framing has become more and more interesting. So it used to be radical Islam, right? So they talked about radical Islam. And they talked about Islam that these fanatics believe in some crazy militant version of Islam where they just want to kill everyone and all this stuff. And they want to, put women in garbage bags and all this stuff. But further down the line, the definition of radical has loosened up to the point where if you pray 5 times, now you're pretty radical. So now, radical used to be really crazy, but now they're saying anything that, if you can show Islam, if you look even Muslim too much, if a woman's wearing a hijab, she must be a radical Muslim. If a guy's got a beard, he must be a radical Muslim. We don't have it that bad in the United States, but in Europe it is pretty bad. And I've been to Europe and I can tell you, it is pretty bad. It is pretty bad. It is seen as very radical. But the question is why? We have this mentality, the Muslims have developed this mindset, they're out to get us, man. These kuffar, man, they hate us. They keep making these cartoons against us. They keep doing this propaganda against us. They hate everything about Islam. They're coming after this, that, the other. They. We don't have any time to look in the mirror. The prophets, I told you, alayhim salatu wasalam, were also made fun of. I told you that. The Sahaba were also made fun of. وَيَسْخَرُونَ مِنَ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا. It's in the Qur'an. They make fun of those who believed. The kuffar made fun of those who believed. It's in the Qur'an. But the fundamental question is, why were they made fun of? And why are we being made fun of? Is it the same thing? And I argue it is not. Those people were made fun of because that was one of the ways to shut down the work of Islam. One of the ways to stop Islam from spreading, because they didn't know what else to do. Islam was so thought-provoking. Islam was so eye-opening. Islam called for justice. It questioned injustices happening in that society. And people were gravitating, young people, old people were gravitating towards Islam. And they didn't know how to stop it. So they came out with the tactic of calling the messenger a liar, and that didn't work. Alayhi salatu wassalam. Maybe we can mock these people and just laugh them off so nobody thinks they're a big deal. That was one of their tactics. And when that didn't work, they resorted to other tactics. All of these tactics were there to stop Islam from spreading because it was too powerful. I don't argue that's the case with us. I argue the ridicule is being made of Islam because of how Muslims appear. What Muslims have become. How we carry ourselves. What our societies look like. What our streets look like in our neighborhoods. What our homes look like. What our businesses practice are like. What our governments are like. If you want to look at examples of corruption, if you want to look at the exact opposite of a civilized society, travel to the Muslim world. Much of it. Hard for us to even be civilized in the parking lot of a masjid, for God's sake. The only time we're organized is when we have to be organized in sufuf, when salat is called. But outside of that, forget about it. Forget it. The worst kinds of just basic human decency we don't possess. We don't possess it. What is Muslim civilization? We love quoting our history. We love quoting when the Muslims were at the forefront of invention, when they were leading the universities of the world, when they were, people would come from all over the world to study ilm in Baghdad, and the Europeans had lost their literature and the Muslims had it, and they had to come to us to learn it. When Spain was a model for the world. We love quoting those things. What are you going to quote now? What have we done? What have we produced as a people? How have we contributed to the world? The only time we make it to the news is when we blow something up. Or when we're in some kind of chaos or another. Look at it from the outside perspective. These people are crazy. These people are crazy. As a matter of fact, I'm not even going to point the finger at the Muslim world, the rest of the Ummah. Let's talk about Western Muslims for a moment. We come to these societies, and I've dealt with the Muslim community in the United States for quite some time. I've had decent interaction with the Muslim community in England and in Australia. But let me tell you something. The things you see among the Muslims, subhanallah. I know Muslim business owners that'll lie on their taxes. Yeah, but I don't want to pay the kafir. Really, you don't want to pay the kafir. You're selling beer. That your Islam didn't show up then, but all of a sudden your wala and bara showed up when you had to pay your taxes. You know? These Muslims, today, us, not these, us, we have such low moral standards. Such low moral standards. You have Muslim business owners that don't pay decent wages. They don't pay decent wages. They don't even give their wife their mahar. They're complaining about injustices in the world. They don't even have justice inside their home. Inside their home. Why would somebody want to be attracted to Islam? The ayah that I want to share with you today is one of the scariest ayat in the Qur'an when it comes to this ummah. رَبَّنَا لَا تَجْعَلْنَا فِتْنَةً لِلَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا. Our Rabb, do not make us a fitna. Do not make us a tribulation for those who have disbelieved. In other words, one of the meanings of that ayah is, Ya Allah, don't make us so wretched and so embarrassing a people, so far from the actual beautiful teachings of Islam, that when non-Muslims see us, they say, why would I want anything to do with Islam? Why would I want to be Muslim? I want to be like these people? This is what I want to be like? They are not justified in them poking fun. But we're not justified when we refuse to look in the mirror. We're not justified. We have to start looking in the mirror. We have to fix this problem. And it's high time we stopped complaining about what the world is doing against us. We are the people of La ilaha illallah. We have on our side Allah Azza wa Jal. His help is greater than any problem. There is no problem big enough to not be able to be managed when you have Allah on your side. The problem is, we don't want Allah's help. At least we don't care to earn it. It doesn't just show up for free. It has to be earned. There has to be a transformation that has to happen inside my house. It has to happen inside my family. It has to happen inside my neighborhood. We have lost our moral compass. And I'm not talking about advanced knowledge of deen and fiqh and sharia. I'm talking about basic morality, people. Basic morality. We'll have masajid in the United States and across the world even, where fundraising is taking place. And they're gonna collect money. And once they collect the money, they're gonna say, yeah, we should put this money towards this thing or the other. Well, no, you advertise that you're gonna raise these funds for this project, but now you're putting it in another. No, it's okay, we have a fatwa. You have a fatwa to be dishonest? Where'd you get that from? But that's okay, we could do that. You know? We could lie even in the name of religion. We could lie, subhanallah. How could that be? How does it get to that point? How does it get to the point where you have to argue in your home? You have to argue with your parents, argue that, Dad, really seriously, I really think we should give zakat. No, it's okay. And there's an argument happening inside a Muslim home whether they should give zakat or not. This is happening inside the Muslim family. Why would Allah's help come to a people like that? That have been given the most beautiful deen. That have been given the most perfect teachings. And they don't even look in the mirror for 1 minute, for 1 day. Just, what am I doing wrong? You know, many of you are not ulama, you're not fuqaha, you're not muftis, you don't have to be. But you know what you do wrong. I know what I do wrong. And we keep overlooking it. Allah will not change the state of this people. You know, Allah will not change the state of this ummah. Nope, He will not do it. Allah Himself says, people say, oh, you just quote the ayat are the ultimate reality. There is no greater reality than the ayat. There is no reality you'll find in physics and chemistry and biology that you will find in the ayat of the Qur'an. إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُغَيِّرُ مَا بِقَوْمٍ حَتَّى يُغَيِّرُ مَا بِأَنفُسِهِمْ. Allah will not change the state of a people until they transform what is within their own selves. مَا بِأَنفُسِهِمْ. There is something wrong inside of ourselves. Allah's answer to what is wrong with the ummah is something is wrong inside people. That is Allah's answer to what is wrong with this ummah today. When He says, وَأَنْتُمُ الْأَعْلَوْنَ إِن كُنْتُم مُؤْمِنِينَ. You are going to be in the supreme position if in fact you have true iman, if you're true believers. Now clearly we're not in the supreme position, so something must be wrong with iman. Because Allah is never wrong. Allah is just not wrong. This is a tragedy. One after another, and it's not going to stop, and we know it's not going to stop. We know it's not going to stop. The only thing we can do, instead of being overwhelmed by this flood of tragedy and constantly just figuring out a way to justify to somebody, how we're not crazy. Because by the way, they're going to think we're crazy no matter what. You can't impress them. You could try. Messengers tried too. If messengers weren't good enough for them, we're definitely not good enough for them. Let me tell you. There's no way to impress them. No matter how we do right, the people who hate will always hate. The people who make fun will always make fun. But we better give them the right reasons to make fun of us. The right reasons are we stand by Islam. We are the people of reason. We are the people of intelligence. We are the people. The greatest threat of Islam was not its force. And I promise this is my last point. The greatest threat of Islam was not its force. Was not the sword. Was not the weapon. The greatest threat of Islam was the power of its ideas and how it challenged injustice head on and how it questioned the integrity of other philosophies, other ideas. How can you think like that? How can you act like that? How can you judge like that? أَمْ لَكُمْ كِتَابٌ فِيهِ تَدْرُسُونَ أَفَلَا تَعْقِلُونَ Why don't you think? How do you make your decisions? This is a religion of أَدْعُوا إِلَى اللَّهِ عَلَى بَصِيرًا. I call to Allah with eyes open, a religion of thought. We are no longer a thoughtful people, so Islam is no longer. What we think the threat of Islam in the West, the threat of Islam is its militancy. The militancy is nothing. This is nothing. The real threat to the Quraysh were rattled, not at Badr, but back in Makkah. They were shaken up. Just by the ayat, the word of Allah was enough. It was enough to take a tradition that was there for thousands of years, and it was rattled just by a few words of Allah. Just by a few words. Some things happen. We're not connected with that word anymore. When somebody wants to win an argument, when two people have an argument, and you don't have a response, then you get angry. And you start yelling. And when you start yelling, it is proof that you lost. When you in an argument start yelling, it is proof that you lost because you don't have a reasonable answer left. And it frustrated you, so you got angry. And when two people have an argument and you lost and you hit the other, that is also proof that you lost. Because you could not defeat him with words, so you figured you could try to defeat him with your hand. This is actually indication that you're not strong enough in what you have to say. My argument to you is, our deen, Allah has given us words, there are no stronger words. There is no stronger message. We don't have to resort to anything else. And when we do, it is as though we are admitting that this isn't strong enough. But it is. We're not strong enough because we're not connected to this word enough. And we have to be the people that produce the most intellectual responses. The most reasonable responses. The ones that challenge the immorality of the world in the most profound and thought-provoking way. We're the ones that are supposed to engage in the most deep conversation with the agnost, with the atheist, with the Christian, with all of them. With all of them. Their accusation against religion, you know what it is? It's been there for centuries in Europe now and now all over the world. Religious people are closed-minded. Religious people are fanatical. Religious people are intolerant. Religious people cannot take criticism. Religious people are not open to conversation. So if you get rid of religion, you'll have an open-minded society where people can think for themselves. This is their accusation. And you know what? It holds true for the Christendom that had invaded Europe for centuries. It was true. But the Islam that Allah gave His Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam is the exact opposite of that. It is the religion that encourages dialogue. Hatu burhanakum in kuntum sadiqeen. Bring your evidences. Why don't you give me all of your criticisms against the Qur'an? I would invite you to bring all of your criticisms. How is a book asking people not just to have faith, but to please collect all of your criticisms and bring them? This is what you call open-mindedness. The book is calling to open-mindedness. We're the ones that are closed-minded. We're the ones. And we have to empower this ummah again by opening up our minds, by opening up this book and thinking the way it wants us to think. To show that religion is not a way to close the mind and close the eyes and close the hearts. It is the way to open the mind and to engage in dialogue and to bring civilization to humanity. They think the solution is when you get rid of religion. And we're saying the solution is when you bring the true religion. Yes, false religion will bring oppression. False religion will bring oppression. But when you bring the deen of Allah, it's a thing of beauty. If we don't show them that, who will? That's why Allah put you and me on this earth. To be members of this ummah is an honor. It's not a small thing. We are carrying collectively 1/5 of the Ummah's population on our shoulders, the burden that was placed on the shoulders of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That is what you and I carry every single day, whether we admit it or not. And when we don't do something about that burden, and we don't show humanity what it is, we're in trouble. Not just with the authorities or with the media, we're in trouble with Allah. I pray that Allah Azza wa Jal makes us a people of Qur'an once again. That teaches us not just, that we learn to think the way Allah wants us to think. And that we are able to represent in our character, in our communities, in our business dealings, in our personal lives, in our speech, in our demeanor. We're able to depict what makes this deen so perfect, what makes it so beautiful. May Allah Azza wa Jal shine the light of this guidance into all of our hearts and keep it strong and make it stronger and stronger. And may Allah make the generation of young people real leaders for this community that are going to bring an age of light out of this age of darkness. Barakallahu li wa lakum fil Qur'an al-Hakim wa nafa'ani wa iyyakum bil ayati wa dhikr al-Hakim.